The moment the notification popped up on her phone,
No,
I swear
it
I
can't
could
be,
feel
not
the
him.
exact second her world tilted. I wasn't there to see her face. I was 1,600 miles away, sitting alone in a rented loft with bare concrete walls and a single lamp throwing long shadows across the floor. My
I told you
laptop
it would end
screen
like this.
glowed blue against my skin. The wire transfer confirmation stared back at me. $8,400. Oh, the exact amount she'd deposited into my account every month for the past 7 years. No more. No less. Her text came 30 seconds later. What is this? No question mark. Just 3 words. Sharp. Like she'd typed them through clenched teeth. I didn't answer right away. I let my thumb hover over the screen while I listened to the low hum of the city outside the window. Rain tapping glass, distant siren, normal sounds, ordinary night. Then another text. Daniel, answer me. I typed slowly, deliberately, your final allowance. Enjoy the rest of your life. I hit send and turned the phone face down on the table. My heart wasn't racing. It should have been. Years of planning, years of silence, years of swallowing every insult she ever threw, and now this, one clean cut. Instead, I felt quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after a storm has passed and you're standing in what's left of your house, wondering which pieces are still yours. My name is Daniel Hargrove, I'm 39. Up until about 4 minutes ago, the people who used to know me would have described me as the nice guy who never quite figured it out, the husband who smiled too much, the dreamer who spent most nights in a garage full of half-finished projects while his wife climbed the corporate ladder and paid the mortgage, the man who, according to her, would never amount to anything. She wasn't entirely wrong. I didn't amount to anything for a very long time. But I never stopped building, and tonight the last piece clicked into place. I leaned back in the chair, closed my eyes, and let the memory roll in like smoke. It started the way most slow deaths do, with small cuts. We'd been married 9 years when she first said it out loud. We were at her firm's holiday party. Crystal flutes, black dresses, men in tailored suits talking about private equity like it was weather. I stood beside her in a Blazer ID bought on clearance, holding a drink I hadn't touched, while her colleagues asked the usual questions. So what do you do, Daniel? Before I could answer, she laughed light. Practice Dan touched my arm like she was steadying a child. Oh, Daniel's between things right now. Hayes, figuring it out. Figuring it out. She said it like it was charming, like it was temporary. I smiled, nodded, thanked someone for the compliment about my tie. Later, in the car, she kicked off her heels and sighed. You know, you could at least pretend to have ambition. I stared at the dashboard lights. I do have ambition, she snorted. Tinkering in the garage isn't ambition, Daniel. It's a hobby. And it's costing us money we don't have. That was the first real cut. I didn't bleed right away. I just went quiet. The next morning, I was back in the garage before she woke up. I didn't say anything about it. I didn't have to. She kept score anyway. Every missed promotion. Every time the savings dipped because I needed parts. Every dinner where she paid. Every time one of her friends asked innocently when I was going to get serious. She never yelled. That would have been too easy. She just eroded me, word by word, look by look, sigh by sigh. And I let her, because part of me believed she was right. I was 31 then, still young enough to think love could outlast humiliation, still stupid enough to think if I just worked harder, built something real, she'd see me. So I worked, nights mostly. When the house was dark and she was asleep upstairs, convinced I was wasting electricity again. I built, I failed, I rebuilt. Prototypes that caught fire, circuits that fried, months when nothing worked. Shed come down, sometimes robe tied tight, arms crossed and watch me from the doorway. You're going to burn the house down one day. Maybe I'd say, but at least it'll be warm. She never laughed. Eventually, she stopped coming down. The allowance started a year later. She called it house money, said it would help me focus. Really, it was control dressed up as generosity. $8,400 every 30th of the month. Like clockwork, like charity. I never spent it on myself. I bought parts, tools, software licenses, coffee at 3 in the morning when my eyes burned. The rest I saved. Not for us, for the day I wouldn't need it anymore. She never noticed the savings account growing. Why would she? She thought I was incapable of growth. I didn't correct her. I just kept building. There were nights I almost quit. Nights I sat on the cold floor surrounded by dead ends and thought maybe she was right. Maybe I was delusional. Maybe the dream was just pride wearing a mask. Then I'd remember her voice at that party, Daniel's, figuring it out, and I'd pick up the soldering iron again. Because if I stopped, she won, and I wasn't ready to let her win. Not yet. Years passed. She climbed higher, vice president, then senior vice president, corner office, company car, name on the building directory. I stayed in the garage, invisible, until I wasn't. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday, just after 2 in the morning. A clean signal, no noise, no smoke. I stared at the oscilloscope for almost 20 minutes before I believed it. Then I laughed quiet, cracked, like someone who'd forgotten how I filed the provisional patent the next week. Kept it secret, not because I was afraid she'd steal it, because I was afraid she'd laugh. Or worse, tell me it was nothing. I spent the next 14 months refining, testing, documenting, working my day job tech support, graveyard shift, then coming home to build, sleeping in snatches, eating whatever was in the fridge. She barely noticed. She was too busy being successful. When the utility patent finally issued, I didn't tell her. I just started reaching out to companies. Quiet emails, discreet meetings, NDAs signed in hotel lobbies. Offers started small, then bigger, then serious, then life-changing. I took the best one, cash upfront, royalties, equity, enough that I could walk away from everything, including her. I didn't leave right away. I waited until the money cleared. I waited until I could look at our joint account and see the transfer sitting there, cold, clinical, final. Then I sent it, with one line, your final allowance. Now the phone buzzes again. Her name I don't pick up. Instead, I open my laptop, pull up the flight confirmation. One way, tomorrow morning, no return ticket. I close the screen. The rain keeps falling, and for the first time in years, the garage is dark. No soldering iron, no hum of fans, just silence, and me, and the beginning of something I can't take back. I stand up, walk to the window, press my palm against the cold glass. Somewhere out there, she's staring at her phone, wondering how the man she married turned into a stranger, wondering where the money came from, wondering if she ever really knew me at all. She didn't, but she will. Soon, the question isn't whether she'll regret it. The question is whether he'll still care when she does. And right now, I'm not sure. Now stepping back, let me tell you how it really started. How a quiet man in a quiet garage became someone capable of walking away with everything and nothing. The backstory begins on a Saturday afternoon in late spring, 9 years earlier than that wire transfer night. I remember the exact smell: fresh cut grass coming through the open kitchen window, mixed with the coffee she always brewed too strong. We'd just closed on the house, a modest 2-story in a neighborhood that was still climbing out of starter home territory. She walked through every room like she was inspecting troops, already planning paint colors and furniture placements. I followed behind, carrying the last box of my tools, feeling something close to pride. We were 29 and 30, young, in love, or at least convinced we were. That night, we sat on the empty living room floor, bare hardwood, no couch, yet sharing cheap takeout and a bottle of red she'd bought to celebrate. She leaned against my shoulder and said the words I still hear in quiet moments. "This is ours, Daniel. We're building something real here." I believed her. I still do, in a way, just not the way she meant. Back then, I was working remote tech support for a mid-sized software company. Decent pay, boring, predictable, enough to cover half the mortgage while she chased her MBA at night and climbed the ranks at the marketing firm downtown. She was good, sharp, charming, ruthless when she needed to be. People noticed her, doors opened. I liked that she was brilliant. I liked watching her light up rooms. I liked being the steady one she came home to. But steady started to feel like invisible. The first real fracture came about 18 months after we moved in. She'd just landed her first big promotion, senior brand strategist. 6-figure salary, bonuses, a team under her. She came home that Friday evening wearing new shoes and carrying flowers she'd bought herself. To congratulate me, she said, laughing, since my husband apparently forgot. I hadn't forgotten. I'd spent the afternoon failing to debug a circuit board that kept shorting. My hands were still stained with flux. I'd planned to take her out the next night, small Italian place we liked, candles, the whole thing. Instead, I apologized. She waved it off. "It's fine, you've got a lot on your mind." That phrase again, "you've got a lot on your mind." She said it like understanding. It landed like pity. A few weeks later, we were at dinner with her new colleagues. One of them, some slick account director named Marcus, asked what I did. Before I could answer, she jumped in. "Daniel's sort of an inventor in training. He's always got something cooking in the garage." They laughed politely. I smiled like it was a joke we shared. Later, in the car, she turned the radio down. "You could have just said you work in tech support." "I do invent things," I said quietly. She sighed, not angry, tired. "Dreams are cute, Daniel, but bills aren't." That was the night the allowance idea was born, though she didn't call it that yet. She started helping more, transferring money into my personal account so I could focus on my projects without worrying. $8,000 and change every month. Enough to feel generous, not enough to feel equal. I accepted it, not because I wanted the money, because refusing would have started a war I wasn't ready to fight. So I took the transfers, and I built. The garage became my world. A folding table, pegboard walls, a second-hand oscilloscope, shelves of salvaged components, a mini-fridge that hummed louder than it cooled. I spent most nights out there after she went to bed, sometimes until dawn. She'd come down occasionally, hair in a messy bun, arms folded, robe cinched tight. "You're going to ruin your eyes staring at screens all night." "I'm fine. You're not sleeping." "I sleep enough." Silence. Then the soft click of the door as she went back upstairs. She never asked what I was working on. Not once. I told myself it didn't matter. That when it finally worked, she'd understand. I was wrong about that too. The years blurred. Her career accelerated. Mine stayed flat. She traveled. Conferences in New York, LA, Singapore. I stayed home and kept the plants alive. She bought the new SUV. I kept driving the 12-year-old sedan with the dented fender. She redecorated the living room. I stayed in the garage. Friends stopped asking what I did. They just asked how she was doing. I stopped correcting them. Somewhere in year 6, I hit a wall. A prototype failed spectacularly small lithium cell vented, filled the garage with acrid smoke. I stood there coughing, staring at the charred board, and for the first time thought maybe she was right. Maybe I was chasing shadows. I sat on the concrete floor until almost 4 a.m, knees to chest, listening to the house settle. Then I heard her voice from the doorway. Daniel. I didn't look up. She stepped inside bare feet on cold floor. You're scaring me. I laughed once, short, hollow. I'm scaring myself. She crouched in front of me, touched my face. You don't have to do this. We're okay. We have enough. That word used to mean something. I looked at hurriedly, looked. She was still beautiful, still the woman I'd married. But the eyes looking back at me weren't proud anymore. They were worried and a little embarrassed. That was the moment something broke clean inside me. Not anger yet, just clarity. I wasn't going to quit. I was going to finish. And when I did, I wasn't going to hand her half the victory like a good husband should. I was going to keep it, all of it. I stood up, went back to work. She watched me for a minute, then left without another word. After that night, she stopped coming to the garage, stopped asking questions, stopped pretending to care. The allowance kept coming. I kept saving most of it. I filed the first provisional patent in secret. I started talking to lawyers in hushed Zoom calls from coffee shops. I built the final version in pieces, some in the garage, some in a rented storage unit across town after she started asking why the electric bill was so high. I tested in silence. I failed in silence. I succeeded in silence. And when the offer came 8 figures, plus royalties, I didn't tell a soul. Not my mother, not my brother, not her. I signed the papers in a lawyer's office on a Thursday afternoon, shook hands, took the first wire, moved the money through 3 accounts so it couldn't be traced back easily. Then I waited, not long, just long enough to feel the weight settle, long enough to be sure I wouldn't flinch. The night I sent the transfer, I sat in that rented loft, the one I'd quietly leased 3 weeks earlier, and stared at the confirmation screen. I thought about calling her. I thought about driving back to the house one last time. I thought about every small humiliation, every quiet night, every you'll never amount to anything dressed up as concern. Then I thought about the man I used to be, the one who believed love meant swallowing pride, and I decided that man was gone, not dead, just finished. So I typed the note, hit send, and let the silence swallow everything that came before. That's how I got here, to this empty room, to this dark screen, to the sound of rain on glass and a phone that won't stop buzzing. She's calling now. I let it ring. I didn't wake up one morning and decide to destroy my marriage. It wasn't dramatic like that. It was slow, like rust, like gravity. By the time I filed the final patent application, I already knew 3 things. 1, I was going to sell. 2, I was going to leave. 3, I was going to do it in a way she would never forget. Not because I hated her, because I wanted her to remember exactly who she married and exactly who she lost. The planning took almost 2 years. Quiet years. I kept the same routines, same graveyard tech support shifts, same tinkering excuses, same tired smile when she came home late, smelling like wine and other people's perfume. I opened the second bank account in another state. I rented the storage unit under a company name I registered for $89 online. I found the loft through a friend of a friend who didn't ask questions. I interviewed patent attorneys until I found one who understood discretion better than morality. I learned how to move money without tripping flags. I practiced saying goodbye in my head so many times the words lost their taste. And all the while I lived beside her like nothing had changed. We still ate dinner together sometimes. We still shared a bed. We still said I love you before lights out automatic, like muscle memory. She never suspected. Why would she? In her mind, I was still Daniel who can't get it together. Still the man who needed her allowance to buy resistors and dreams. She upgraded her wardrobe. I upgraded servers.
It can't
She
be,
booked
not
spa
him.
weekends with girlfriends. I booked calls with acquisition teams. She talked about the future, the vacation house, the early retirement, our plans. I listened, nodded, said sounds nice, and kept building the exit.
I told you it would end like this.
The night the final offer landed clean, 8.4 million up front, plus escalators, I didn't celebrate. I sat in the storage unit at just past 1 in the morning, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and stared at the email until the words blurred. Then I cried, not loud, just silent tears running down my face while I gripped the edge of the folding table, because it was real, and because it meant the end of everything I'd pretended to want. I wiped my face with my sleeve, shut the laptop, drove home. She was asleep when I slipped into bed. I lay there listening to her breathe slow, even peaceful, and felt something close to grief, not for her, for the version of us that died somewhere between the garage and the boardroom. The next morning she kissed my cheek on her way out. Have a good day, babe. You too. Normal, ordinary, final. I waited 3 weeks for the money to clear escrow. Then I moved fast, quietly. I transferred the allowance amount into the old joint account. I wrote the note in a text draft and saved it. I packed 1 suitcase clothes, laptop, hard drives, the few things that still mattered. I left the wedding ring on the kitchen counter. Not out of drama, out of honesty. Then I drove to the loft, sat in the dark, waited for the clock to hit midnight on the 30th, watched the transfer go through, sent the text, and disappeared from her life as cleanly as a dropped call. She didn't know where I was. She didn't know how much I had. She didn't know the man she'd mocked had become someone she couldn't afford to lose. But she would. Soon, the phone keeps lighting up. Missed calls, voicemails I won't listen to, texts that start with confusion and slide toward panic. I don't answer, not yet. I want her to sit with it. I want her to feel the hole I left. I want her to understand for one clear, terrible moment what it feels like to be the one who never amounted to anything. Because tonight the student becomes the teacher, and the lesson is expensive. The first 48 hours after I sent that transfer were the quietest of my life. No explosions, no screaming matches over the phone, just absence. My phone stayed mostly dark after the initial barrage of calls and texts. She tried everything in the first few hours. Anger, confusion, demands, then something softer that almost sounded like fear. Where are you? What happened? Daniel, please just tell me you're okay. This isn't funny. I'm calling the police if you don't answer. I read every message as it came in. I didn't reply. I didn't delete them either. I let them stack like evidence in a case I was still deciding whether to prosecute. I spent those 2 days walking the city I'd chosen, somewhere warm, somewhere far from winter and from her. I walked until my legs ached and the sun dropped low enough to paint the sidewalks gold. I ate food I didn't taste. I sat on benches watching strangers live lives that looked simple from the outside. I let the distance grow between who I used to be and who I was becoming. On the third morning, just before 8, the first email arrived. Subject: we need to talk. From her work account, professional, controlled, like she was scheduling a performance review. I opened it on a park bench with coffee going cold in my hand. Daniel, I don't know what game this is, but it stops now. The transfer was unauthorized. I've already spoken to the bank, they're reversing it. If this is some kind of breakdown, I can get you help. We can get you help. Come home, or at least tell me where you are so I know you're safe. We've been through rough patches before. We can fix this. No, I love you. No apology, just logic. Leverage, the same tone she used in boardrooms. I stared at the words until they lost shape. Then I forwarded the email to my attorney with one line. Please confirm the funds are irrevocable and non-reversible per the terms of the marital property agreement we discussed. I didn't need to ask. I already knew. Community property state. But I'd moved the patent rights and the sale proceeds into a separate entity before the money ever touched our joint accounts. The allowance transfer, that was clean. My money, my decision, the rest. Legally untouchable unless she wanted to spend years and hundreds of thousands proving otherwise. She would try. I knew she would. The reversal attempt bounced back the same afternoon. Bank notification. Insufficient grounds. Funds already dispersed to an irrevocable trust structure. Have a nice day. Her next email came at almost 10 that night. Subject: this is serious. Daniel, the bank won't reverse it. They say it's final. I don't understand how you even had access to that kind of money. Where did it come from? If you've done something illegal, I need to know now. For both our sakes. I'm not angry. I'm worried. Please call me, just once. I read it twice. Then I typed my first reply in 3 days. Short, final, the money is mine. It came from a patent I sold, one you never asked about. I'm safe. I'm gone. Don't look for me. I hit send before I could second guess the gentleness in it. She called immediately. I let it ring 17 times, counted each one, then silenced it. The voicemail started after that. The first 3 were calm, measured. The executive voice. Daniel, we need to discuss this like adults. I've consulted counsel. We can resolve this amicably. You don't want to drag this through court. The 4th cracked. I don't know what I did to make you hate me this much. The 5th was quieter, almost small. I thought we were a team. I listened to that one sitting on the edge of the loft bed, elbows on knees, phone pressed to my ear like it was burning. I didn't cry, but something inside me twisted hard enough to bruise, because she was right about one thing. We had been a team, once, before the scoreboard started mattering more than the game. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and watched the numbers. The first royalty deposit hit at just after 9 the next morning. 6 figures. Automatic. No fanfare. I stared at the balance until it felt real. Then I booked a longer-term place, nothing fancy, just a furnished apartment overlooking water. Paid 6 months up front. I started the paperwork to change my name, not legally yet, Just the small things: email, accounts, a clean break. I didn't tell anyone where I was. Not family, not old friends, especially not her. She kept trying. Emails slowed to one a day. Texts became shorter. Then pictures started arriving. The house. The garage door standing open empty now, except for a few boxes she must have dragged out looking for clues. My old chair at the workbench. The wedding photo still on the mantel. No captions, just images. Silent accusations. I saved them all to a folder labeled before, because that's what they were, before. A week later, the first process server showed up at the old house. My attorney forwarded the photo of the envelope taped to the front door. Dissolution of marriage. She'd filed, no fault. But the petition asked for spousal support, half the community assets, and reimbursement for every dollar of allowance she'd ever sent. I laughed when I read it short, surprised, like someone had punched me in the ribs. She really thought the allowance was leverage. She thought I still needed saving. My attorney's reply was clinical. We counterfile next week. Full financial disclosure on both sides. She wants discovery. She gets discovery. I approved it. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I sent her one more text. Not cruel, not kind, just true. The allowance was never charity. It was rent for the space I took up in your life. Considered the lease terminated. I blocked her number after that, not out of anger, out of mercy, for both of us. The weeks that followed were strange. Quiet mornings, long walks, nights where I sat with a single lamp on and thought about everything I'd burned down. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollowed, like I'd finally won a war I never wanted to fight. But winning still leaves bodies on the field.
I told you it would end like
and
this.
One of them was mine, the man who believed in forever. He didn't survive the reckoning, the one who replaced him. He's still learning how to breathe in all this new air. She didn't fall quietly. She didn't fall gracefully. She fell the way empires do slow at first, cracks appearing in places no one notices, then all at once, loud enough that everyone hears the crash. I wasn't there to watch most of it. I didn't need to be. The updates came in fragments emails from my attorney, forwarded court documents, the occasional screenshot from a mutual acquaintance who still felt guilty enough to reach out. I never asked for any of it. They just arrived, like debris washing up on a shore I'd already left behind. First came the financial disclosures. She had to list everything, every asset, every account, every investment, every debt. She listed the house mortgage, still in both names, though payments had been hers for years. The SUV leased in her name. Retirement accounts healthy, growing, savings comfortable. Then came the line that made my attorney pause during our call. Patent income, invention proceeds, unknown source, amount. She didn't know how much. She couldn't prove where it started. She tried anyway. Discovery requests flew like arrows. Bank statements going back 7 years. Credit card records, email archives, hard drive images from the home office computer. They found fragments, old invoices for electronic components, search history from my laptop keywords, like provisional patent filing, non-disclosure agreement, template microcontroller suppliers, a single saved draft email to an acquisition VP dated almost 2 years before the sale, but no smoking gun, no spreadsheet labeled secret $1 million plan, no triumphant journal entry confessing revenge, just quiet, methodical work, the kind she used to call tinkering. Her lawyers pushed hard. They deposed my old co-workers from the tech support job. They subpoenaed the storage unit company. They even tried to subpoena the patent office records public anyway. But they wanted chain of custody proof, tying the invention to marital time and resources. They got stonewalled politely at every turn. The invention predated her promotions. The garage was my space long before the allowance checks started. The provisional was filed on my personal time, using parts I bought with money I earned. And the biggest shield of all, the sale happened after separation. Legally clean, morally. That's a different courtroom. One afternoon, just after 3, my attorney called. She's offering to settle. I was standing on a balcony overlooking water that moved slow and green. Wind smelled like salt and diesel. How much? She wants the house free and clear, half the retirement accounts, and spousal support for 5 years. I laughed once, soft, surprised. She still thinks she's negotiating from strength. She's bleeding cash, he said. Legal fees are eating her alive. The firm gave her a warning: shape up, or they'll sideline her on big accounts. Stress, performance, she's slipping. I didn't answer right away. I watched a gull wheel overhead, wings catching light. Counter, I said finally. She keeps the house and the SUV. She keeps her retirement untouched. No spousal support, no alimony. In exchange, she signs a full release of any claim on the patent proceeds or future royalties, and she agrees to a permanent no-contact order, silence on his end. Then that's generous. It's closure, I said, not generosity. He drafted it that night. She sat on it for 10 days, then signed. The papers arrived by courier to my new address, signed copies for my records. Her signature looked smaller than I remembered, shaky on the final page. I stared at it a long time, not triumphant, not relieved, just finished. The divorce finalized 4 months later, uncontested, no hearing, just ink and filing fees. I didn't go to court, neither did she. Somewhere in a quiet clerk's office, a stamp came down and erased 9 years, 3 months, 17 days. I felt the absence more than the freedom, like losing a tooth you hated but had gotten used to pressing your tongue against. Afterward, I walked to the water again, sat on the same bench, watched the same slow current, and asked myself the question I'd been avoiding. Was it worth it? The money was real now. Royalties deposited twice a month, like quiet applause. Enough to live anywhere, do anything, be anyone. And yet every night, somewhere between 1 and 2, I still heard her voice in the dark. Not the angry one, not the executive one, the small one. I thought we were a team. I never answered her in real life, but in those hours I answer myself. We were. Until we weren't, until I decided that surviving her version of love was costing more than I could pay, so I paid a different price instead. I paid with silence, with distance, with the slow death of the man who once believed she'd eventually see me. Some mornings I wake up and the first thing I feel is gratitude, sharp, almost painful. Other mornings I wake up hollow, wondering if revenge is just grief wearing a mask, wondering if I'm better now or just different, wondering if she's still staring at the empty garage some nights, asking the same questions. I don't know, I don't ask. I've learned the hardest lesson of all. You can win everything you wanted and still lose the only thing that ever really mattered. Not her. Me. The part of me that still believed in second chances. That part didn't survive the fall. What's left is quieter, harder, careful with trust, the way burn victims are careful with fire. But alive, and for the first time in years, free. Time doesn't heal, it covers, like dust settling over a battlefield long after the guns go quiet. I live in a place with more sky than memory now. Small house near water, windows open most days, a workshop in the back not, a garage, not anymore, just a room with good light and no shadows. I build still, smaller things, things that don't need to prove anything. A solar-powered weather station for the local school, a custom controller for a friend's greenhouse. Nothing that will change the world, just enough to remind my hands they still know how. I don't check on her, not directly, but the world is small when money moves. A former colleague mentioned casual over coffee that she left the firm last year, started consulting smaller clients, fewer late nights. She sold the house, moved to a condo downtown, alone. No rebound story that made it back to me. No new ring on her finger, just quieter. I don't feel satisfaction when I hear it. I don't feel guilt either. I feel recognition, like looking at an old photograph of someone you used to know, distant, familiar, gone. Sometimes I think about sending one last message, not to hurt, not to explain, just to say, I didn't do it because I hated you. I did it because I loved the man I was becoming more than the man I was allowed to be with you, but I never send it. Some silences are kinder than words. I've kept the old phone number active, not for her, for the day she might need to reach someone who once cared enough to leave. It's never rung. I don't expect it to. I've learned to live with the echo instead, to carry the weight without letting it bend me, to wake up each morning and choose again to build something, not to prove her wrong, but to prove myself right, that I was always more than the allowance, more than the garage, more than the failure she needed me to be so she could feel successful. I am Daniel Hargrove, 39 when I left, 41 now, still breathing, still building, still remembering, and for the first time in my life, still enough, just as I am.